The liberal media now has been making an effort to seek all of the undecided voters on the impeachment and removal of office of Tribulation Trump. As you know, the polls have been steady for the last couple of months. 50% of the American people believe that Tribulation Trump should be impeached and removed. 43% of the American people believe that he should not be impeached or removed. So what the liberal media is doing now, notwithstanding that the conservative or the right-wing media, Fox News and all of its cabals, are doing basically the same thing. I think mainly Fox News is trying to maintain the number of people that are still supporting Trump, because holding on to them is the most difficult task, rather than trying to reach out to grab some independent voters or try to grab some of the people that believe that Trump should be impeached and removed and become a part of their group. Anybody who right now believes that Trump should be impeached and removed, they are not going to go and change their minds, and rightly so. But those who are holding on that he should not be removed are doing so for racist reasons, and they can't be gotten to. And so Ari Melber did a thing last night on bribery and explaining what bribery is, and looking at the number of people that were impeached as judges and congressional persons because of bribes, and looking at the now people that are still in Congress, and both in the House and the Senate, that supported the impeachment of Democrats and Republicans, and now how they act like they have no idea what bribery is, and they're trying to walk away from the truth about Trump and the impeachment. He did an incredible job, I think, workup of the history of impeachments in America. And so I'm going to let it run. It's going to run for a little while, but stay tuned for this. What he's attempting to do is to persuade the Trump voter, to persuade the Trump worshiper that, listen, if it wasn't for y'all, if it wasn't for white people trying to save whiteness, racism and white supremacy, you'd impeach Trump in a heartbeat, because you've done it 1,000 times in the past. Mr. Engineer, roll this clip.
Now to our special report tonight on bribery and politics. Tomorrow, Congress will release its report on Trump's Ukraine plot, followed by impeachment hearings exploring whether the evidence shows Donald Trump abused his power and demanded a bribe to help his reelection. Now, in law, judges and lawyers always look to precedents first to see what we've learned before and where the lines are, how past scandals can determine if something was just hardball foreign policy or just typical political horse trading, or was it a crime? And directly asking for a bribe is a crime. So now let's go through some of these key precedents which could haunt Trump, starting with the notorious Abscam scandal, which implicated 7 congressmen from both parties, the kind of blockbuster bribery that made for a blockbuster movie, American Hustle, where you may remember that FBI agent Richie DeMassa was played by Bradley Cooper going up against bribery in Washington in the wake of Watergate.
You're going to do this because you got no choice. You work for me.
You keep changing the rules. You're getting a little power drunk. Richard, you want to tell him anything? You want to wake him up?
Oh, no, I said we shouldn't do any of it, Irving. You know I said that. So now I support Richie. He's got vision. Do it heavy or don't do it.
What does that mean? I mean, he's the one ruining America, not me.
How the am I ruining America?
Because people just got over Watergate and Vietnam, all right? And you're going to all over politicians again? It's just because you want to be a big shot, get a promotion.
The dialogue's realistic because the plot was very real, right down to the tense moments when a politician's handlers get in that place, that moment before a bribe where everyone knows something pretty legally dangerous is going down.
Oh, excuse me. I'll handle that for the mayor.
No, it's for the mayor. It'd be a sign of disrespect to the sheik if the mayor didn't take it. It's for you, Mayor.
In real life, those kind of sting operations led to a series of real indictments.
5 members of the House have been implicated in the FBI's Abscam bribery investigation.
Today, another Abscam trial got underway involving another congressman. The FBI's Abscam investigation today resulted in the indictment of a member of the United States Congress.
Unlike the president, Justice Department rules allow for indicting those members of Congress while they're in office. There's no first step of impeachment for abuse of power. Bribery gets you indicted quick, if there's evidence, and there was, FBI tapes showing congressmen accepting bribes, which is what that very scene we just showed you in American Hustle was based off of. Here's Mike Myers, a Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania, taking a $50,000 bribe from an FBI informant.
You're talking about a lot of money, okay? Let me just say this to you. You're going about it the right way. Okay. I'm going to tell you something real simple and short. You know, money talks in this business and bullshit talks. It works the same way down in Washington.
I think might be wise about it. While they're doing, I get some back from you on some court stuff that we can, four of us can read back in Philly. Spend it well. Yeah, do that any day, whatever. Okay. Pleasure.
Pleasure. Bag of cash and a handshake. It's pretty damning. Myers was the first congressman convicted in abscam. There was little doubt about what he did and what the facts showed. Now, he then implored his House colleagues to still stand by him. He invoked even a, quote, lynch mob attack.
I hope that the members will not let the political pressures of the vote force them in joining a lynching mob, because that's exactly what I think it is. I know what it feels like now to sit on death row. And you vote to expel. It will have the same effect as hitting the button if I was strapped in an electric chair in this well.
But here is what's so relevant about that right now. When the facts came out, Myers' congressional colleagues didn't deny them or minimize them. They voted to expel him. They made him the first congressman expelled since the Civil War.
Guilty. That's the verdict in the first abscam trial. The jury of 9 women and 3 men found Pennsylvania Congressman Michael Myers and 3 co-defendants guilty of bribery and conspiracy.
The House voted overwhelmingly to approve, and Myers, convicted of taking a bribe in the abscam investigation, was expelled. A moment in history.
A moment in history, the House standing together in that bipartisan rebuke of bribery. And most of Myers' fellow Democrats voted to expel him, along with most Republicans, who had their own problem in the same scandal with Richard Kelly, a Florida Republican.
My way of thinking was there's only 2 people involved now, you and I.
Okay.
And if that's all right with you, that's the way we'll do it. It's up to you.
Okay. I don't know whether I can...
I'll tell you what, let's put that in there. Just leave your jacket open.
Leave your jacket open. You put more money in your pocket. Watch this. It's really funny.
That's what it looks like when you literally pocket the bribe. Kelly there got prison time as well, along with 5 other representatives and 1 senator who went to prison for bribery, most of them Democrats. This was a huge deal, and there was no doubt in court or in the congressional vote or in public conversation that trading your office for personal benefit, cash or political help, was wrong. And not like a little wrong, but like get kicked out of office and go to prison wrong. And while envelopes of cash can look kind of old school, these precedents are not ancient history, which may be chilling for Donald Trump. Consider the more recent case of William Jefferson, a Democratic congressman indicted by the Obama Justice Department for bribery. Again, caught on tape in his sting. Here he was accepting $100,000 from a woman who turned out to be an FBI informant.
My hands are full if you don't mind grabbing it.
As you can see, Jefferson stuffs the briefcase into a bag, but he declined her offer to take a quick look at the money.
He didn't even count the money.
Take a peek at it or
Told him to count it.
I would not.
Now, you may remember Jefferson's cover-up because he took that cold cash and made it colder, stuffing $10,000 bundles of it into his freezer, which the FBI found when they raided his home. Now, if Jefferson was hoping fellow Democrats might make apologies for him, he was wrong. It was under the Obama DOJ that those agents found the dollars you see right there in his freezer, while over in Congress, Nancy Pelosi kicked him off the key committee handling money and appropriations, and he claimed that was some sort of rigged deal against him. This may be one of the rare times that William Jefferson and Donald Trump sounded similar.
In this case, it was strictly political. She believes that it gives her a political advantage in this set of elections. She hopes that out of this, she'll be Speaker of the House one day if the Democrats can take charge.
Nancy Pelosi, she's blocking the vote. She doesn't want the vote to take place because they would rather hurt their political opponents than help their black constituents. That's what it is.
But attacking Pelosi didn't change the evidence. And to be clear, again, in a comparison and a contrast to today, at that time, other leaders in both parties did say the bribery evidence required removing Jefferson, which is the House's version, effectively, of impeachment and conviction.
But I intend to hold our colleagues to a higher standard. And when we talk about the standard here, we all know that bringing dishonor on this House is a standard that all of us attempt to meet and make sure that there is no dishonor brought.
The allegations that have been made are extraordinarily serious. They, if proven true, should lead to the expulsion of the member in question.
Serious talk. Now, Congressman Jefferson's wads of cash are not the exact same as President Trump's Ukraine plot. The evidence against Trump is far, far worse. Jefferson went to prison.
So I thought maybe you'd be interested in reviewing this to see how congresspersons have acted in the past regarding, you can shut that down, Mr. Engineer, how they've acted in the past regarding impeachable issues of bribery, et cetera, with Congress, both Republican and Democrats. And now all of a sudden they've got amnesia. They don't remember that they've done this when it comes to Tribulation Trump, who's done something, as Ari Melba just said, far, far worse than any of these clowns have done with their taking of bribes. So, again, this is about white supremacy. It is what it is. That's just how that is. It's not about it. They have abdicated the Constitution in the democratic way. The Constitution does not favor white people anymore. It just doesn't. In black people, African Americans, if you will, I prefer to use Japheth, the Hamite, Canaanite, but y'all won't pay attention to me if I use those terms. You think I'm some sociologist professor somewhere, so I got to use terms that get your attention. And later on, when things are better acceptable, I can rest solely upon those terms. But they're out there in the atmosphere. But the truth of the matter is that at one point the Constitution didn't work for black people. Dr. King said the time for America to rise up and live out the true meaning of her creeds and Constitution. Remember that very famous speech. Because at the time, black folks thought that it didn't work for them. Well, guess what? The shoe was on the other foot. But people won't say this. And both parties have chosen the wrong spokesperson. Right now, with the Constitution rising up, living out its true meaning and its creed, for black people, puts white people in a subjective minority. A desperate minority in every way, politically, financially, economically, socially, and otherwise. So and that's where we are with this impeachment crisis, and that's why the numbers are not moving one way or the other. But if 50% of the American people, which is absolutely most polls are in agreement that 50% of the American people believe that Trump should not only be impeached but removed, that's pretty stunning. If and only 43% believe that you should not be. That means that there's 50% of America don't want you. And if that's the way the 2020 election will go down, 50% of the American people want you to be removed, 40% does not, you'd be removed. However, the election is not based on the number of people that vote for you as it is this poll is taken, because ultimately the presidential election is decided by the Electoral College, and then that puts a monkey wrench in the whole process, where even if you got less than 50% of the American people voting for you, the Electoral College in some states, red states, can throw the switch in your direction, which is what happened. But albeit an illegal election aided by Russia. The thing I think is important that we need I haven't seen much about this, about Bill and Hillary Clinton raising the issue, if Trump is impeached, and whether he's put out of office or not, and as to whether or not it can be demonstrably put together that someone will testify that Trump was aided by Russia, thus making his presidency illegal. And that ought to be the other thing that is waiting in the wings that we're not hearing anything about. But the scenario could be this. Let's say that some evidence is produced in the course of this judiciary and impeachment hearing in the Senate that Trump was indeed aided by. Somebody steps forward and said, actually is a credible representative and says that Trump was aided by Russia, or even Vladimir Putin or some Russians themselves like Poroshenko or others will come and say that Trump was aided by Russia, meaning that he could not have won the election, that the election was a fraud, and that Hillary should be the president. This could really get very interesting. And that's something that's waiting in the wings. Again, that's not being discussed. But I can guarantee you this, you can bet your last money that before all this is over with, Hillary's going to make a bid to be instated as president because the election of Trump was illegal. And there's a lot of evidence pointing in that direction. There's a ton of it that Russia actually helped Trump. And if there can be one scintilla, the problem is that everybody knows that now in the media and in the House of politicians know it. The problem is this, is that if you acknowledge that, then it just really destroys our electoral system. If people then lose faith, then they won't go vote at all. That's why they let Obama stay. Once Obama was in, and even the Democrats knew that he was ineligible, that he was not constitutionally eligible, that he was born in Kenya, they wouldn't fight it, and the media tried to protect him. They weren't protecting Obama, they were protecting the Constitution and our way of voting system, our most sacred voting system. Because had they demonstrated that Obama had cheated the system, then nobody would trust the voting system anymore. Nobody. And from there we go to Trump. And if it's ever demonstrated that with Russia, Trump cheated the voting system, then people just give up. They won't go to the polls anymore for anything. So behind the scenes, there people are trying to protect that. But before that, they're trying to protect that. Mitch McConnell and the folk are trying to protect white supremacy. I guess you could say that black people from the days of Dr. King and everybody else was trying to advance black power. You don't get angry about that, do you? It's true, they were trying to advance black power. And Lyndon Johnson wrote a bunch of laws, he and Adam Clayton Powell Jr., to advance black power. Now, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans and through Donald Trump, calling him sent by God, are trying to preserve white power. And that's just how that is. And there's no other way. I mean, you can look at it, you can let these people spin you on Fox and anywhere else and tell you this or that or the other, but the truth of the matter is that we got a race problem in America. We have got a racial problem in America that just won't go away. It just will not go away. Listen, I made a really strong effort to bring the races together at Gettysburg. I figured ask people, like Lee Greenwood and others to come to Harlem. They're not going to do it. But the Gettysburg, come on, that's white boys' territory, right? That's Gettysburg. I asked them to come. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't even return my calls. I was trying to bring white folk and black folk together. We got a race problem in America. That is worse now than it was in the days of slavery and proceeded after that Jim Crow. And the epitome of it now is an orange-haired orangutan from New York City, a coochie grabber, a casino owner, a pathological degenerate that they're now saying God sent. And they're pushing it off to saying God uses imperfect people. Yeah, it does, but it doesn't use psychopaths. It doesn't use psychopaths like this fella. So it's important that if you want to maintain your sanity in the midst of all of this, and I can tell you, the game is over with. White people have lost their superiority. The game is over with. It's over with. Why do you think Trump is fighting so hard with Xi Jinping of China? Or Abe of Japan? Because the anointing has moved to brown people. The game is over with. It's up. The game is up. It's over with. And why do you think that's such a comprehension or a agreement between Russia and America? Because Russia is all white people. No black people over there in Russia. It's the last of the white nations that are not liberal. Of course, Europe is very liberal, but Russia is white. And that's why there's a unity between the Southern Baptists and Russia. That's why they calling Vladimir Putin sent by God, trying to save whiteness. But the game is over with. I mean, you can do what you want, say what you want. Right now, you still got the Senate, and you got the Attorney General, and you got the President. So I guess you flex those powers as much as you can. But it's not going to get you very far. The game is up. The gig is up. And I don't say this joyfully. I'm not rejoicing. I'm just reporting. The gig is up. If you give the Constitution applied to every man across America, one man, one vote, then brown and black people are going to rule the world. Or they're going to rule America. And that's why they're trying to stop immigrants, stop them at the border, stop the immigrants, stop them wherever you can stop them. Stop all of them. Build the wall. Lock her up. Because if you let the Constitution be applied equally, white boys are in deep trouble. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.